Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of our Industry 4.0 webinar series powered by the UE Open Campus in collaboration with Whiteboard Labs. I'm your moderator, Jamie Rock, Program Manager within our Continuing and Professional Education Center here at the UE Open Campus, and I'm so delighted to be your moderator to guide you through our discussion today. Our webinar is titled The Way into the New World, because Industry 4.0 is an established reality that seems to just fulfill various requirements in different industries and businesses, with extensive research happening in many diverse areas. And so there's an imminent need to understand how Industry 4.0 can be a useful paradigm to fulfill various requirements of different fields using different technologies. So today we have three very experienced and celebrated experts on our panel to lead our discussion today. We have Ms. Akshita Shukla, the head of Environment, Health and Safety and Engineering at L'Oreal Pune Operation. We have Dr. Safia Mohammed, CEO of SISU Global Wellness, Lead AQ Resilience Consultant, and John Maxwell Leadership Coach, as well as Mr. Rifudaman Magan, who is the director at Natural Group. First up, we have Ms. Akshita, and I'll just give you a brief background on her before we ask her to share her presentation. Ms. Akshita is a professional with experience in environment, health and safety, sustainability, and corporate social responsibility. She's an engineer with an MBA in environment, health and safety management from NITI Mumbai in Mumbai. She's demonstrated leadership by driving strategies and setting up scalable systems, working with stakeholders across geographies, effective communication, and program management, ensuring compliance, process improvement, and sharing best practices. She has been instrumental in getting multiple global and national level awards for Asian Paints. Also, she engages with students from renowned institutes like NMIMIS, SP Jain, TISS, and etc. Through guest lectures. I'm very proud and pleased to introduce to you Ms. Akshita Shukla. Over to you, Akshita.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah.
Next, we have Dr. Safia Mohammed. She is the CIO of SISU Global Wellness. She's a resilience consultant with Lead AQ, John Maxwell Leadership Coach, as I mentioned before. She has spent the past decade on a mission to improve not just the health, but also the wellness and well-being of the national community in Trinidad and Tobago. From her many roles as a mom, a medical doctor, a philanthropist, and a diplomat, presentations at the UN, her travels go as far as Goa, India. Dr. Mohammed was selected based on her continued work in the community and health spaces to be one of the country's youngest diplomats in the US International Visitor Leadership Program. Of this, she noted that experience meeting congressmen and women in high-level business persons and very active NGOs, which helped her to further align her journey with the idea that we could bring these perspectives to our country through governmental, civic, and community organizations. Dr. Mohammed is a proud UE graduate as well. She was a class valedictorian of the Faculty of Medicine in 2004. And when UE selected 50 distinguished alumni at their 50th year celebrations, she was the youngest selected and the only female medical doctor. Dr. Mohammed has worked as a registrar at the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit at the San Fernando General, where she ushered many compassionate programs and forward-thinking initiatives while there. She mentioned that there was a little in way of compassionate care in the public healthcare system at the time. So she created a support structure for families through counseling at the hospital in a new space that suited it. So we're pleased to have Dr. Mohammed on our panel today. Welcome, Dr. Mohammed.
It's a pleasure to be here and to join these formidable panelists and this discussion. Thank you so much, Jamie.
So happy to have you here. And finally, we have Mr. Ripuda. I'm really sorry that I'm butchering your name, Mr. Magan, who is the director of the Natural Group. He has vast experience in technology as well as some deep work in banking automation. He's the lead for the solution team at the UDI MSP CIDR project in the capacity as technical head. He has worked as an AVP in HCL Infosystems Limited and handled various projects. He was awarded with the CMMI Level 5 certification and took the Bankmate CBS software to the rural areas through financial inclusion projects of various banks. Bankmate CBS FI is used in implementation financial inclusion projects in over 25 banks, including 8 nationalized banks and 17 regional rural banks. And Mr. Magan, just for our audience, please help us to understand how you pronounce your name so that I can be able to master it before this session is closed.
So good morning, everybody. Thank you. Pleasure to be on the panel and to discuss something which is going to happen in the future. We pronounce it very simply as Repu, so we can avoid the Naman part.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Mr. Magan. So I will just hand over to Akshita, who's going to start off our discussion today.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Jamie. I think after the introductions, it's very clear that it's a big privilege for me to be a part of this group, which is so diverse, so loaded with knowledge. And I find it very interesting every time, even offline, whenever I've connected with this group. So a lot of interesting conversations and exchanges. So it's a big privilege, and special thanks to the WBL team to have me here. And since you're streaming in various time zones, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, whichever country you've joined from.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Yes.
So, sorry, you're saying something, Jamie?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, this topic that we've selected today, which is on Industry 4.0, it's a very interesting topic. In fact, a couple of days back, it was with a WBL team, and we connected on this topic. And time and again, we do keep exchanging what's happening in the industry, what's WBL doing, what's happening in different organizations. So today I thought probably it will be a good platform for me also to share as part of L'Oreal what we are doing under 4.0. So before I get specifically to what L'Oreal is doing in 4.0, maybe I'll touch a little on where the need of this entire 4.0 is coming from, and what's my experience of different industries and interactions, how 4.0 has come into picture overall, and how slowly industry, rather very fast, how industry has migrated from lean to 4.0, and the quick acceptance of it, rather the kind of different industries and different continents, how quickly they are adopting to 4.0. So when I say 4.0, it's not the IT enablement firstly that we are talking here. It's actually end-to-end integrating a closed loop tech platform that we are talking of, and that closed loop tech platform enables a lot of benefits to industries. Like if I have to talk in L'Oreal's context, with the changing demands, what we've seen that now customers across anywhere, they want anything at any time, and if you want to have competitive edge, you need to provide them with what they want wherever. It's gone are the days when the demand is high and supply is low and customers would wait. The brand loyalty and the paths, if you have to be the market leader, and of course L'Oreal is the market leader. So if you want to be the market leader, you need to have cutting edge leadership, even in providing your customer whatever it needs, whenever and wherever. And we've seen that the trends have changed drastically in the last 3 years, which haven't changed in the last 30 years. So in the last 3 years, the kind of changes that we've seen, we all ourselves have migrated from shops to e-commerce, and especially in COVID times. And the minute we have the system in place, when we have to order, we explore anything and everything that we want. So, and no matter where the production is happening, like the customer is least bothered whether you are producing something in Paris or you're producing something in China or you're producing something in India. If the customer wants it, it wants it. And if you don't provide, it will buy from somebody else. So such challenges, how industries are coming over with, I think a sum total of that kind of quick automation, that kind of end-to-end integration, that kind of enablement is overall called 4.0, which has a lot of integration of tech, a lot of integration of data, a lot of integration of manpower, and which is a very synchronized end-to-end system in its own. Like just to give you an example of L'Oreal for that matter. So at this point in time, a project that I'm myself working on is connected utilities. So I'm in operations of L'Oreal at its Pune factory. So what is connected utilities? So at factory we use water uh, for like shampoo, conditioner. The main constituent of the product is water, and a lot of energy in any factory is consumed. So is the case in L'Oreal, the factory that I am at. So until now, until a year or two back, we were definitely working on a lot of water projects, a lot of energy projects in order to reduce them overall. But to have that kind of smartness to know which point, where, how much it is consuming, and how do I set KPIs, how do I set analytics in place in order to have a very targeted reduction. So such kind of enablement is only possible when you go for very smart tech. So what we've done, like there is this entire enablement of connected utilities where you put energy meters across your factory, water meters across your factory, and then that entire these meters are then connected to with your cloud, and you whatever data you get is real time. Like at any point in time, with a single click, I know which part of the shop floor is consuming how much of water, which part of the shop floor is consuming how much of electricity. And over time, with that data analytics, I can definitely develop different projects. Same if you have to talk about different products. If I have to talk about the research side of L'Oreal or the product side of L'Oreal, with the different requirements of customers coming of small pack size or larger pack size or very customized pack sizes, it's difficult to put immediate machinery in place or to directly buy big machinery and start producing, like the cases when you have a very small lot production. However, the need is immediate. So there comes handy the entire 3D printing. So L'Oreal has enabled 3D printing in most of its product streams. And now in like seconds and minutes and days, when we have a lot of customized products, packaging coming out and customers are trying, we are getting the feedback, which is only possible because of this entire 4.0 coming in. A few other things if I have to touch base on, we all know of cobots, the collaborative robots. So right now at the Pune operations itself, where I am based, earlier the manual work, because of which a lot of ergonomic issues used to happen, like lifting of heavy load, probably bending down, putting it up, putting it down, that entire bit is replaced with cobots. And these cobots are very smart. Definitely one thing is that they enable higher productivity. The downtimes or probably the in-between breaks are lesser. At the same time, their name itself is collaborative. That means that they're very designed in a way that they can work with the workforce on the shop floor. So with these cobots coming in, the entire ergonomic issues, which were there a lot on the shop floor, they have completely reduced significantly, or in a way for a few workers, it has vanished with the cobots coming in. At the same time, productivity has gone up many folds. So I can keep on going because, of course, the organization that I'm working with has done a lot of 4.0 implementation. But probably a few, with the conversation going, I can touch base on how we have these smart cameras also now on the shop floor, and what these cameras do. Like instead of each quality check that you have to do, these cameras are small, very smart sensors that they detect the quality on the go, on the line. So the entire shutdown time or probably the breakdown that otherwise would happen does not happen because of a lot of smart enablement. At the same time, the waste, with the entire data integration and the remote planning that you do, you're sitting here and you can manage the shop floor from a distance, the entire PLC SCADA system that is there. You manage the shop floor very smartly, and because of which the otherwise waste that would get generated wouldn't get generated. And this over time we ourselves have seen, like if you see the data a couple of years back versus now. So all in all, I would say that the 4.0 for us, the way we look at it, it's a very smart vision-led end-to-end closed loop system, which integrates people in it, making them understand and making them adapt to technology pretty fast, and leading to very high production in lesser time, lesser waste, smart projects, smart and very volume products. And definitely a very, I would say, proud feeling to be working with a very pro-tech organization and to be a part of it and learning so much. However, this space is yet growing. Even now, most of the companies, if you have to talk of 4.0, they're still figuring out, like every organization would have a different definition of 4.0 to itself, because it's very customized requirement of the vision of any company when it comes to what is 4.0 for you, based on the products that you are making, based on the requirements that you have. And a lot of companies are yet to figure out the kind of investment probably that would go in versus what would come out for them. However, in my opinion, if you ask me, the best way for going for 4.0 is like, think big, have a big vision. In that big vision, try a very small prototype. And if that prototype works, scale it up. And probably that's the theme that at L'Oreal we are following. And going forward, we are also looking at having probably the foundations that we have already started giving solutions of having foundations directly, customized foundations that the customer can himself prepare at the shop and take it. So these kind of enablements are happening only because we have migrated to 4.0 significantly. Yeah. Thank you.
That's so amazing. There's a lot happening at L'Oreal, and it's just a very small snippet in this space that you've shared, Akshita. But before I jump into any questions, I want to go hand over to Dr. Mohammed so she can make her presentation, and then we'll get back to some of the questions that I've noted from your presentation. But thank you so much, Akshita. And over to you, Dr. Mohammed.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Ashita, I don't know, that's a hard act to follow. Good morning, everyone. Special mention our Principal Longsworth across in Barbados. Good morning, good afternoon to those in India and across the world. So thank you so much for having me here on this particular panel. It's an esteemed panel, and I feel quite privileged to be able to contribute a few insights that I've accumulated in the past couple of years. More so, as Ashita mentioned, in the last few years, the changes in this industry has been dynamic. It has been dynamic in the healthcare, specifically as we've been seeing digitalization. Digitalization of healthcare was already on the way, but it was a much slower tempo, I would say. The technological adaptation of healthcare really emerged in, I would say, the last decade, and then had an exponential growth in the last 3 years. COVID, of course, took it to a next level, and we'll discuss that as well. Make no mistake, however, this digital revolution is at our hospital doors, and it's now taking healthcare into the home care. And that's something where I would like to move it to, that healthcare is taking into the home care through telemedicine. Through telemedicine, it's about really being able to interact with our patients in their own space. It has made COVID has allowed us to interact with our patients in a safer way through telemedicine. This way we can now, because of smartphones, because of technology, we can allow them, teach them, increase their healthcare literacy, how to even check their pulse, as simple as how to check their SpO2, and then convey that information to us. Another very important sector that Healthcare 4.0, and I'll kind of coin it Healthcare 4.0, is taking us into is the ability to capture vast amounts of data and now utilizing it and putting it to work into applications, making healthcare management and decisions much better informed while allowing us significant gains in efficiency and cost control. There's also the involvement hugely of artificial intelligence, and that is using the power of predictive analytics to accelerate healthcare. The workload for our clinicians, especially let's say radiologists, in the past couple of years have increased vastly. So there's not enough. This is actually a field that we will need more of. There's not enough new radiologists being trained. And with this increasing gap between data and radiology, AI can indeed help reduce the amount of work and help keep our healthcare clinicians focused on our patient care. We're also seeing great improvements, and Ashita mentioned it, in 3D printing. We're seeing the use of 3D printing in surgical techniques, We're seeing the increase of robotics. Some surgeons actually use their robotic arms now, and they can do it even over the virtual space. So they are not needed, not all of them are needed in the same surgical theater room. That for us is mind-blowing. However, with this increasing technological advancements of healthcare, it also brings certain barriers and certain challenges that we must be aware of. And that I'm referencing our cybersecurity. So we now have the risk. We have to manage very carefully the information, patient records, because there can be some that would want to monetize this patient records because it is their behaviors, it's their choices. So we must have a very clamped hold on cybersecurity on how we're managing this information age and where and who these suppliers are when it comes to the patient's information. Most importantly, and through the avenue that my company, CISU Global Wellness, and I would share the word CISU and where it originated from, is ensuring that while we are moving forward with technology, we're also ensuring the training, the compassionate care, the resilience, the ability to adapt is being maintained. Because as we move forward in this healthcare 4.0, while we already had an unwell world, COVID has shown us the increased cost of unwellness. In fact, a Gallup study stated that the US government had an annual $2.2 trillion loss because of unwellness at work. And they had as much as a $550 billion loss to respect to the cost of disengagement, stress, and burnout at work. And I don't think I need to re-emphasize what COVID has cost. There's a heightened stress among us because of this pandemic. And this is quickly transforming into new disorders, anxiety. We're familiar with anxiety, but now there's a COVID-related anxiety. So as we move forward in this new healthcare 4.0, and we're moving more into the digitalization of healthcare, we must pay particular attention to communication. Communication with compassion, communication with clarity. In order for businesses and our academic world, our training, our universities, to have that competitive edge, we must pay special attention to increasing topics as conscious capitalism, resilience intelligence for businesses, the neuroscience of mindfulness, the psychology of happiness, the science of altruism. All of these are emerging fields of study that we must give attention to, and just doing good in the pursuit of well-being. These emerging and converging trends have led some futurists to now label this next economic age the wisdom economy or the human economy. So for organizations, for universities, for all to have and to be able to differentiate themselves, they must adopt a holistic approach to be able to get the best out of people while we are now removing some of our human sector from their roles that they were quite accustomed to. So this holistic approach is very important as organizations seek to hit these KPIs and targets. So that attention to wellness and well-being and ensuring there's this positive impact on behavior is now more than ever a discerning factor for organizations to emphasize what is their organizational brand. And I want to re-emphasize that we want to inject an organizational brand of a culture of wellness and well-being. This is going to be solidified as we integrate different workplace and tools, and as we integrate technology more so into our healthcare industry, because we are seeing burnout, stress, and these things are emerging. So this is why resilience has been so important, and not just teaching resilience, but giving and encouraging people to have these coping tools and these strategies so that we could really create a harmonious cycle of wellness and well-being as we move forward, creating a consciousness of energy and focusing our energy on our human economy. There's so much more I can go on to, but I'll leave it at that. My company, Sisu Global Wellness, has been 3 years in existence. It's a formidable behavior change company, and we've been able to do work at all levels. Very much myopically, as in short term, and then macroscopically, large term. We've been doing work in hemispheres right here within the Caribbean and of course across the globe. Early on I had a conversation, I had the opportunity of presenting in Dubai, and virtually we had 150 countries all coming together, and the conversations there focused on this human economy, and I really hope that we put more emphasis on the human economy. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohammed. And I'm very excited in my corner because I love when we incorporate that within the conversation of Industry 4.0, because we tend to sometimes forget that behind the tech and behind this innovation is the human, and we need to take care of ourselves and be aware of our well-being in order to make all of that happen. So I'm very, very excited to hear that your conversation was so human-centered and human-focused, and I have tons of questions that I couldn't take notes fast enough. So thank you so much for that. And then moving quickly along to Ripin Magan. Over to you, Mr. Magan.
Thank you very much. So let me shift to something totally or drastically different. So when we say IF 4.0, what we are trying to do, what we are trying to achieve. So we heard Akshita tell us what she's trying to achieve in L'Oreal, what L'Oreal is going to do with 4.0. What we are seeing with COVID, and ma'am explained that how it is impacting our human lives. There is a big impact which is happening across the world because of COVID and I 4.0. What we are doing is we are creating a world where there is going to be a lot of growth without jobs. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to make our systems intelligent. We are making them super intelligent. And what is going to impact? There are going to be no jobs for people. So what do we do? So when I started about 30 years ago, we thought there was a lot of revolt against computerization, that if we go for computerization, there is going to be loss of jobs. And giving some particular examples, because our education system needs to change, our mental mindset needs to change, because this is what is the future ahead of us. When my child wants to go for an undergrad course, I think, will the course that he is doing today be valid 4 years down the line? I don't know. That is the speed at which the world has changed. That's the speed at which we are moving ahead, giving I 4.0 to the world, whereby the entire system has drastically changed, not changed, drastically changed. Just giving a small example, a bank like one of the largest public sector banks of India, they started their automation in the year 2000. In the last 21 years, their turnover has grown 3 times. 3 times. The number of setup has gone up multiple times. And what is the manpower that is used behind that? It has reduced 20%. The turnover has increased 3 times, and the manpower used to manage that turnover has gone down by 20%. What it means? We are giving better services to our clients. We are doing it at a better cost. The cost has been saved drastically. The bank is highly profitable because they are able to meet the requirements of the customers on time, wherever they want. From anywhere in the world, they can log in and do the things. That is what we have offered to the world at the cost of a reduction of manpower of 20%. What kind of skills do we teach our people? What are the skills that we bring to the table? Let's go just 5 years back. 5 years back, there was a huge boom for the call center economy. And within 5 years, what we have done, we have just finished that through artificial intelligence. There is no requirement of call centers. Anybody can just log in and book a taxi using a mobile app. The Uber and Ola of the world now use a mobile app using the Google Maps, and everything is done perfectly. Customer is happy, the cost has come down, the cost has not escalated, even though the petrol prices have gone up, we can ignore that. But managing all of that, we have been able to bring down the cost because of the technology inputs which we are ready to give or we are producing for the world. The impact is, we say because of COVID, there is going to be large scale unemployment. And because of I 4.0, I open the panel for discussion that what is the impact which we are going to create through I 4.0. Thank you very much. Welcome everybody on board.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Magan. Short and sweet, but still targetedly effective. And it's so interesting that you mentioned the increase in work, but then the reduction in manpower. I think that's the height of being effective and, making an impact with what you have. So I'm very thankful for your presentation, and I'm very excited about all the different ideas and concepts that were shared today. Very different, but extremely connected in the sense that we're looking at how Industry 4.0 is touching various different sectors in very similar ways. But going back to Akshita and your conversation, you mentioned so much of what's happening at L'Oreal, and I know in every environment, change is sometimes not the most welcome thing. So, and within the short space that you had within your team, how do you manage the challenges of onboarding these processes with Industry 4.0 and meeting customer demand in such a short amount of time and so rapidly as well?
Yeah. So thank you, Jamie. I think you have asked a very, very relevant question. And it's just not about my team. It's something completely new for me as well. And prior to L'Oreal also, I've been with a manufacturing firm called Asian Paints, which also aces in technology. It's the #1 paint company. So all in all, and throughout my stint, I've seen very rapid technological changes. And definitely the most challenging part of this rapid change is the adaptability of the people managing it. So in my current experience, if you say the way I'm managing it with the team is definitely you can't just put technology in place and then train people to use it. Like, gone are those days when we would just do something tech enablement and people will be excited and happy to use it. As Dr. Safia had, she just mentioned that how human behavior takes years and years to change. It's not easy. And especially in India, we have manufacturing firms where you have people, operators, workers who are working at a particular location for years, and when I say for years, they get used to working in a certain manner. That's their comfort zone. So tomorrow, if you just bring a technology, put it in place, and ask them to start using, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. And you might just end up wasting a lot of money and also have some turbulence at the shop floor, because the kind of marrying that you need to do of people and technology is very important aspect. And I think that the particular chord is being struck both by Safia and Megan, that how important it is to first onboard people, how important it is to not forget the main element is, which is people, when you bring in the entire technological piece in place. And the way we have gone about it is firstly to define the entire vision of it. Like, if you're going for something, why you're going for it, how it will actually help the person do the job better, handhold the people, handhold the teams, to train them really well, to firstly to show them the importance of what you are doing and why you are doing. They need to first own it, because they need to see the same importance, the bigger organizational context, that how they're adding value in today's life. Even if money is little less, but if we feel we are adding real value, is what drives us. And that, I think, cuts across the layers. So if you make people believe that if you do this, this is all that you're going to add value to overall, And of course, train them well, handhold them well, give them the initial period wherein they learn, they make certain mistakes, they still get on board to start using it throughout, be there with them. And at the same time, show to them that you are with them in it and you are also using it and learning it. So that's the way that we are going about it.
Definitely. I think that especially in past previous generations, the bottom line used to be we need to make money. That was the bottom line. But I think in our current generation and going forward, our bottom line has to be people and what they bring, because without them, you don't have the money, you don't have the profit, you don't have the reputation of the company. So I that's an extremely incredibly simple but still so profound understanding. So thanks so much for that, Akshita. And I think that transitions really well into the question that I had for Dr. Mohammed. I mean, nowadays we're really bombarded with, you're welcome. We're really bombarded with technology. We have it in our pockets, in our purses, on our desks. They're everywhere, and we forget that sometimes when we're so connected but disconnected, in the sense that we forget who we are. We need the time to remember that we're human and we have to make actual human connections. What would you say would be your 3 simple tips, or a simple tip to remind persons that your wellness starts outside of your phone, or your wellness starts outside of your laptop, and how do we get back to who we are?
Jamie, that is an excellent question. And again, we have such a dynamic panel here and everyone is connecting their dots. And as you said, we live in a hyper-connected world. Isn't that the irony? Yet at times there's so many people so disconnected. And that's actually a training session that I do on the CISU Global Wellness, how to reconnect those disconnections. And it's most important to first and foremost understand what fuels our cells, what fuels. So that may fuel it while we are probably, especially during COVID, glued to our laptop. There's no more disconnection between the workspace and home space, because the home space is now the workspace. And there's a work life, instead of we attempting to achieve a work-life balance, which doesn't exist anymore, we now have to achieve a work-life blend, because we'd like to blend our work experiences with our life experiences, but still make it purposeful and of course still stay, as you said, connected. So my top 3 tips is first and foremost understanding boundaries. And boundaries is incredibly hard, but you are doing boundaries without guilt. In that, until you can give the best of yourself, then you can't give anything of yourself. And it's very much, while we're not able to fly right now, and it's hurting my heart because you're seeing the background, I love flying. It's very much like that theory on the plane. Not something that I talk about, but if the plane goes down and the oxygen masks come down, who do you give the oxygen to first? Yourself or your child? It has to be yourself, as hard as that decision is, because you want to save your child. So same thing, similarly, we want to give the best of ourselves. So we need to nourish ourselves and nurture ourselves. So step 1, boundaries. They're incredibly important and we do it guilt-free. Step 2, as connected as we are with technology, let's not forget our connection to nature. Nature is so rejuvenating. The food that we eat, ensure that it's nutritious supplement. We have to fuel ourselves. As you say, we're connected to this. Let's ensure the battery of our own lives is nutrified with proper fuel. And thirdly, as we expand our bandwidth, just to be able to do, and again, I reference that Dubai connection, myself being in Trinidad, I needed to make sure that when I presented at Dubai, I had everything in order. So I increased my bandwidth on my Wi-Fi, my IPS here. But let's ensure we increase our mental bandwidth. So we increase our coping skills. We increase our ability to manage stress, our resilience, our grit, or our Sisu power. And let me explain what Sisu is. Sisu is that gut strength, that instinct that come within, that starts from our gut. It really translates to the word gut, is a Finnish word. And that capacity to endure. So in that third one, while we're increasing the bandwidth of our technology, let's increase our mental bandwidth and tap into our inner Sisu strength. I hope that helps.
I feel rejuvenated just from just from those three tips. So thank you so much, Dr. Mohammed. And I mean, going back to how Akshita's presentation and tying it with yours, the concepts are so plain and simple, but profound in the sense that when we implement them, when we are aware and we're cognizant of the fact that these basic principles can be life-changing, I think that's where the sweet spot is. So thank you so much for that, Dr. Mahad. And just to transition very quickly into Mr. Megan before we jump into some of the questions that I have here in the chat. You said something very interesting, Mr. Megan, when you talked about the fact that our education system needs to change because the future is looking very different. So when we look at the change and the connection on an individual level, on a human level, it kind of seems very straightforward, but when you involve a network like a higher education system or a financial institute like a bank, how do you convince them that there needs to be that institutional change?
So till date, what we have been teaching our students or trying to educate them is still what was relevant about 15 years back. The education system has not adapted themselves to what we do today. There is a massive shift. Like we talk blockchain, while what our students are getting taught has nothing, they don't even understand what blockchain is. I appreciate the doctors. The doctors, as soon as they get admitted into an MBBS course, they know that in which area they are going to specialize, in which area they are going to do their research, in which body part they are going to do the research. They are very clear when they join the MBBS first year. Engineers, they do engineering. That's it. We have not yet been able to break their courses into what the practical world is going to be 6 years down the line for them. How a mechanical engineering is drastically changed because everything is done by the computer. The computer will deliver them whatever they want to do. They want to build a bridge across the Nile. Let the computer do it and deliver it for them. So where your EQ is going to come into place, that EQ needs to be taught from the first year itself, so that when the engineer graduates after 4 years or spend 2 more years into research, his EQ level is different, so that he tells the computer, this is what more that I want you to do for me to deliver something better to the world. Let's not teach them what we have been teaching them, because that can be done, or that is being done by the systems much faster. Just giving small examples. Calculation of interest used to be a heavy headache for the bankers. Balancing of books used to be an audit function. The auditor used to come and check that the books of the banks are balanced, of the company are balanced. They used to carry multiple pens with them, red color, blue color, gray color, and they used to mark the transaction, this transaction cleared by this transaction. Now the computer delivers the anti-money laundering software, which tells you how a terrorist has been trying to fund his activities, taking out funds from account A, giving it to account B, then to account C, withdrawing from the ATM, depositing it again through an NFT transaction, taking it out through a SWIFT transaction. All of this is tracked very, very peacefully by the system. What the intelligence of the mankind comes into play is how a person is going to use the systems which we have put in place, and our students need to be taught to be more analytical, use the systems, and grow their wisdom. That is where we will be able to rule the computer, or 4.0. Let not 4.0 rule us. That is the human brain. The human brain is still much vaster than whatever we have been able to put in all the computers till date. The hard disk which I carry inside this is much, much, much vaster, and much more information goes into it. It is just the education system needs to reform itself. Teach the students this is available. Let's not teach them 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2 is already available on the calculator. Let's ask them beyond 2.2 now. So how do we go beyond 4.0? How do we change the education system is the most important thing, which I don't think they have even started debating it. We are delivering it. They have not even started debating, discussing it. That is the gap. It's a huge, huge, huge gap. And that is where I think all of us can contribute. Thank you.
Definitely. Excellent feedback and response on that. I think something that you said made me realize that we think that Industry 4.0 is so a bit scary and far-fetched, but in reality, we are Industry 4.0. We are the innovators. We are the ones coming up with these new technologies and these new concepts and ideas. And I think when we bring it down to that level that we are the creators, it feels a little less intimidating and more like we can take control of it. And so I think that's a really important contribution. So thank you so much for that. I'm just going to head right into the chat. Akshita, you spoke about the robots displacing the humans from the workforce from certain tasks at L'Oreal. And so the questions we asked to all the panelists, could you discuss a bit more on the types of skills that workers now need to fill the space created by that displacement? And then how do we build capacity in the skills that robots cannot replicate or add as much value as the human workforce? And I'll just throw it out to the entire panel. So whoever wants to take the bait first, you can start.
Yeah, so shall I go on that, Jamie?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so to just share the very particular context of robots that I mentioned, in our case, the main reason of going for cobots couple of years back was removing the ergonomic issues that the shop floor members were having. And has that completely let these workers be idle? Answer to that is no. There was not even a question of layoff or probably people becoming idle if that particular task is taken from them had come. And again, I'm talking very specific to the context in which I had shared about the cobots. And it could be very, very different in different organizations. Of course, like automation that leads to a lot of layoffs that happens. We all know automation leads to that. However, in this particular context, it was to remove the ergonomic issues that people were having, and these cobots are the ones, like we have small pack sizes on the shop floor. We manufacture a lot of night creams, day creams, and we have small cartons. So every time a worker has to bend down, pick up the box, put. So this entire movement was leading to a lot of ergonomical issues. And with cobots coming in place, that has been removed. So that was the particular context I shared. The other part of the question, Jamie, if you can share probably the general part.
Sure. So the question looks at how do we build capacity in the skills that robots cannot replicate or add much value as humans do.
Yeah, so I would just repeat what Mr. Megan has already shared, that ultimately, even when robots are brought in anywhere, who brings it? Humans. Who designs them? Humans. So ultimately, we have to be smarter than what any technology can do. Technology definitely can produce scales, produce very faster scales and volumes, but it can never replace the human mind. So if you ask me, how can we be smarter than them? We are already smarter than them because we are the ones who are bringing them in the industry. The larger challenge definitely remains that because of them doing a lot of job that otherwise humans used to do in different industries, how do we still have a lot of job creation for humans? Partly because of the scales which are achieved with a lot of automation coming in place. So with increased scales, we have more people but whether the numbers are still same that we had and have reduced still remains a challenge. And I'm hoping that there'll be some light shed on this topic in this panel. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'll throw that question out to Dr. Mohammed and Mr. Mriagan as well. Okay.
So not only does technology or I 4.0 bring efficiency, it also reduces or brings, let's say, health benefits to the person, which just Akshita explained very beautifully, that if I have to bend every day, pick up things, and now a robot is going to do that for me, my health also improves. So that is the benefit which we are bringing on the table every day. And our job is to create more such benefits so that cost does not increase. Please see how we have been able to give better quality of services, better quality, better delivery of goods, not increasing the cost, in fact, decreasing the cost, or it has remained stable. So which is a big, big advantage that we have been able to give to the industry or to the whole world outside, that we have been able to, through the efficiencies, we have been able to control that. Now, how do we increase the jobs is the next big thing. It's a jobless growth, which we all know, and this is the biggest challenge in front of the economists, in front of the world leaders, that how do we increase that? What skill set do we give to the people so that they are mass employed? If we talk about the construction sector, we have improved that drastically. We have reduced the manpower required to, which was thought to be the industry in which we will be able to give a lot of jobs. So what skill set do we increase over there? Designing we have been able to do. We have been able to do a lot of robotic improvements over there so that the construction work has the manpower which was being employed over there, that has been freed from hard job that they used to do. So this is the biggest challenge. How do we increase, how do we improve our education system? How do we create jobs? I don't have an answer to that, frankly speaking, and nor do I think anyone on the panel can answer that. That how do we increase the jobs? The skilled people are still rare. They are still a rare breed. We find them difficult to get, and they're always in demand. But to create that skill set, to get those skilled people, we need a lot of doctors, we need a lot of nurses, we need a lot of health workers. So, and we need to create them very fast. How do we do that? Probably ma'am can answer that. Yes, ma'am. Thrown the question to you. How do we increase this entire rare breed?
So thank you so much, Mr. Magu. And Ashikta started it off very nicely there. I echo those sentiments that we need to increase the healthcare capacity. However, we have been able, through telemedicine, and I want to just highlight two particular areas that I highlighted in the early part, is that through telemedicine, and telemedicine is so dynamic, we're also increasing the health literacy of our populations. And increasing the health literacy of our populations, we're now enabling anyone to be able to know how to measure their pulse. And they can measure their pulse, tell us, through telemedicine. And that in itself, of course, there may be some inefficiencies in the process in the earlier part of it, but we're trying to create, as I said, a much smarter economy. And that in itself, giving patients more control over their chronic conditions, I believe will firmly help change behaviors. So telemedicine is a big part. We've seen within COVID a number of different apps emerging right here in Trinidad and Tobago. I've been part of a few as a technical advisor. We've even had some from India across here in Trinidad and Tobago, Easy Care. One that I'm familiar with here in Trinidad is Medal and Checkup, where patients are able to upload their information. And I did mention about data. They can better track their data, because we do know, as beautiful as the human mind is, we do forget certain elements when it comes to our medical life, our medical history. I also want to put special emphasis on 3D printing in medicine. Because of 3D printing, let me give you an example. Say a patient who has had a burn injury, we can now print layers of skin and replicate and heal that particular person in ways that we could not before. Or another example, hip joints. As we go into an aging population, we have a huge a number of surgeries involving hip replacement. But as we know, not all hips are the same. We can print that specific joint for that specific individual. So what sort of skills we're going to need? Yes, we're going to need an increasing amount of technical skills, but of course, I will give emphasis to the soft skills. As Mr. Magu mentioned, he mentioned EQ, emotional intelligence. I know in your introduction, you read EQ. So for those who are not familiar, EQ is the adaptability intelligence or your resilience intelligence. So we need to put that emphasis on resilience intelligence. And of course, as I mentioned, that neuroscience of meditation and mindfulness. So as we train our healthcare workers, we need to enable them to prevent burnout and stress, because our capacity right now is still very small. Within this last couple of days, because I've had ICU knowledge and training in background, we've gone on to a mass scale training of our younger doctors and our healthcare workers, just to enable them with emergency medicine and of course ICU type training. Because for those who are watching, I'm sure familiar with the numbers and the increases happening right here in Trinidad and Tobago. So those are skills that we're going to have to cover, and we're going to have to cover them very quickly. But it lies on that base of improving our emotional intelligence and our adaptability intelligence, which is AQ. So I thank you.
You know, this has been such a riveting discussion, and I feel like as much as I'm in the throes of it, learning about Industry 4.0 with this collaboration with Whiteboard Labs, there's something new that throws you every day and gives you something to think about and really assess how even within our own little corner or little space you can make a difference, or to see how we can add to the space and the creativity that's needed within this Industry 4.0 movement. So I'm really, really, really grateful to all of you as panelists today, to share having shared your experiences, and to add to this conversation in a way that maybe someone hasn't thought about it before. But I love that the thread that connects each of the conversation is just remembering that at the core of it all is who we are as human beings on a whole. So thank you so much, Akshita. Thank you so much, Dr. Mohammed. Thank you so much, Mr. Magan, for your contribution today. It's really, really appreciated. And before we log out, I have to remind persons of our upcoming webinar, the next conversation that we're going to have. And it's going to look at the global passport, because, you know, tourism continues to be one of the sectors that's hardest hit by COVID-19, particularly for countries in the Asia Pacific region and the Western Hemisphere. And I know that governments across the world have been taking measures to ease the economic shock to households and different businesses. And so our discussion is going to look at how we adapt to the post-pandemic new normal, and see how Industry 4.0 can be connected to tourism, and to make how we can make our personal decisions based on, you know, the things that are changing within that space. And that is coming on the 31st of May. So watch this space to find out more. Check out our Facebook page, the UE Open Campus Facebook page, as well as the Whiteboard Labs. Thank you again to our panelists. We have appreciated your contribution. Thank you to the viewers. Thank you to the Whiteboard Labs team and the UE team who have coordinated this and organized this conversation. We're truly thankful for all the work that you do behind the scenes. And if you want to share this recording, it's going to be on our Facebook page. You can share it as many times as you'd like. We'd be grateful for that. Take care, everyone. Continue to